handed in the final collection. You know, Chloe, talk me through how that's been.
I don't think people, like Jodie said, I don't think people realise how stressful it can be.
Yeah.
It kind of gets taken for granted. Like I know, like previously before, like even family and friends would be like, oh yeah, just making jeans and t-shirts and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So like you actually have this like entire process from the beginning of something, and it's almost like your child throughout.
Yeah.
And you do get protective over it, and you do put loads of time in, and you do actually get really stressed and all of that about it. So I guess in that sense, like actually handing in now, it feels really weird for us.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is like your last handing as well.
Yeah.
So this is like in a way, it's like closing a chapter.
Yeah. I think it's hard because we've literally spent all day, every day doing it, and then when it's handed in, it's like, oh, okay, what happens now? Even though we've just been set a new project, it's like we've spent so much time on that, it's hard to then just suddenly stop it.
Well, it's 12 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's a long process. So talk to me about the identity of your project. So Chantelle, like how have you been able to communicate yourself as an individual through your project? Like, talk to us.
So kind of just like the identity, or kind of like what I want to.
Yeah.
Well, what I want to portray in my clothes is that someone can wear it and feel confident and everything. And I've always had this thread since like first year that I want a voice to be heard with the designs that I make. Like I had like designs for people like in our first year project, like for people with panic attacks, like something like that. Just like, and also for people who aren't heard in this kind of generation or anything. I think we're a really vocal generation, and I wanted to kind of portray that or kind of reflect that on my clothes. Yeah.
I think yours is really good with identity as well.
Yeah, I did mine based on like my heritage or my DNA stuff from like my ancestors. Like I didn't even know like where I was kind of from back in the 1700s till I did my DNA test, and then I just based on.
I bet that was amazing to find out so much.
Yeah.
Because in a way, when you look back at like how your family tree has progressed, it's like really amazing to find out all sorts of information.
Yeah.
Because in a way, there's so many previous identities that come forward that can inspire you and communicate to you in a way that.
And there's so many stories that I didn't know, or I would never know about myself and my ancestors. And so like I just use this collection as kind of a representation for them.
Yeah.
In a sense.
So how would you say that, how has fashion helped you as designers, because you are going out into the industry this year, how has it helped you communicate to your desirable market? You know, because you've all got a market where you think, oh, this person could wear my clothes.
Yeah.
Or, you know, how has fashion helped you been able to do that?
I think it's helped me find a career path, especially since I've been doing fashion probably 6-7 years now. Like I had like a real interest into it, and I've always done women's wear, and actually doing fashion courses and actually understanding like the crux of fashion, like kind of your market. I've moved into doing menswear, and I think in identity as well, it's like I now know more about it, and it's understanding the market. There's such like this gap in the market in menswear, and it's in sort of terms of like my collection as well. It's kind of a storytelling. It's kind of seeing where fashion's come from and where it's going. Yeah. And it's actually, there's a lot of like resurrection of stuff. Yeah. So a lot of old techniques that I've looked at from like historical element is actually in fashion now. Like people
no, definitely, because it's people just say, oh, you're recycling trends that come from different eras that we haven't experienced, but our ancestors have. Yeah. But you know, it's all about the techniques that are used as well, like pleating and like different, you know, scrunching techniques as well. Yeah. That's just as historical and as an identity itself. Yeah. So you said that you've gone from doing women's wear to now men's wear. What was the fascination? Why were you drawn to men's wear?
I think menswear as a whole is really interesting, but even techniques like fashion codes and stuff, there's so many crazy codes in menswear, like in terms of ranking and like kind of like how much money you own and all of that, and it's so different now. They're still using the same techniques and everything like that, but like to come from something like women's wear was always made for the woman. It was very like non-functioning, you know. It was very pristine, like you just have an image. Whereas men's wear, it was very hard-working. There's so many different things that you can do in men's wear.
There's definitely that there's a stereotype of men have had that history of like a background within work, and you know, it was only really up until, you know, the suffragettes and like World War II that had women really put themselves out there. And you know, it's an amazing thing because they were challenging a stigma that was put in front of them, and that's kind of how fashion shoots are now. Because I've had countless conversations with family members or friends of the family that are like, "Oh, you do a fashion course, like," and it's like, no, I don't do a fashion course. Like,
it's very pretty.
Yeah, like they think, and I, you know, as much as I love my parents, I don't think they'll ever, like, I don't think parents would ever truly understand. You know, not because they're not educated about it, but they don't live through it. You know, like my dad's like, "Oh, you should have a weekend off," and I'm like, no. Like, I don't do like 9 to 5 and then I go home and like just chill. Like work continues after that. So
live it.
We've been doing 9 to 10.
It's crazy because fashion is a serious industry. How do you think that, because there's this sort of image and stigma of like Devil Wears Prada, there's a prime example, you know, she was an assistant to Anna Wintour, but do you think that's really the fashion industry? Like, from, I know that we're not in the experience of like other people that have been in it for 10-15 years, but do you think that is really what it's all about, having this sort of like horrible boss but she ends up liking you because you end up basically proving her wrong? Like, do you think that's really what fashion's about, or is it more like being more passionate and determined?
I don't think it's like that. I think some people think it's like that, and some people want it to be like that, but lots of people don't. Like for me personally, like I'm all really interested in like fun fashion. That's what I want it to be, and I want not only that to follow through in my fashion, but in the environment I'm in everything. I want it to be like a really, so for my market, I want it to be like a really inclusive like collection that anyone can wear and they feel comfortable in it. And I'd like to feel that like my target market, that is like shown as well in like a work area, that the environment is also like that. And I feel like especially in like modern times, it doesn't have to be like that anymore. I think maybe a while ago it was like that more so, but I feel like there's now more opportunities for people are learning that people don't have to be like that to get far, and actually people want to work with nicer people and just have fun with it.
I think it's really interesting because I've met so many people within fashion, and I've had like mixed reviews where I've heard like similar things, like some people want it to be like this bitchy industry that you know it's painted out to be, but there are people that I've met that are like, no, if you're passionate and you're hardworking and you're happy to help with anything to kind of build your portfolio or build your experience, and that sets a goal better than having someone that's like, I really like your shoes. You know, like
I think it's definitely growing to be more inclusive now. I think there are still going to be areas, like places where there isn't going to be this like bitchy kind of vibe, and I think it's also media built to be bitchy. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know about you guys, but I only feel like the top houses are,
Yeah.
like I definitely see it in the top houses because they have that status or anything. But like I worked with a small brand over the summer and they were just so nice because I know everyone and everything. There was none of that like stereotype, like like judgy boss or anything.
Because there's that whole sort of image of how fashion shoots are. Like, oh, we're really bitchy and we walk around with like Chanel sunglasses on, and you know, we just think that we're above everyone. You know, in some ways we we do have extreme knowledge of like our fields, but that's the same with everyone. So why do you think that people have painted out fashion students to be like this hungry, bitchy, superior race of students? Yeah.
I think it's just probably the really well-known the well-known unis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah.
CSM and
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like I can
You
get
hear
like
horror
that.
stories.
Yeah. But I don't know why.
I wouldn't pinpoint, like, you know, you've used unis as an example, but I think it's like you said, it's the environment you're in.
Yeah, and I think obviously fashion students tend to want to express themselves with what they're wearing, and I suppose that confidence of how they wear things and what they wear, people may portray that confidence as like intimidation.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case. That's just how other people portray it. It doesn't mean that person necessarily that way just because they dress a certain way.
Yeah. No, I've had a funny few comments thrown to me before, like from first and second years. I remember one of the girls saying to me, "Oh my god, first and second year is like really fair you," and I'm like, "Why? Like I'm probably one of the most like relaxed people that you'll meet." Yeah. And she was like, "Just because like you walk around with like, such a stern face," and I'm like, that's probably because I'm stressed. Anything else. Like, if I don't smile for half an hour, I'm sorry, but like, you know, but I wouldn't say that the FTI at all has an environment where people feel like, oh, we can't talk to them.
I think that's what was really nice, like, about where we are. I feel like, especially like now, so we've got a like collaborative like workspace where textiles and fashion design have a shared workspace at the moment, and it's so friendly. Like people are talking to each other to work on projects to help each other out. I mean, even like we just had our deadline yesterday, and textiles were helping out with fashion, getting their little bits finished off.
I remember
Everyone was helping each other out. Like that was even
it's such a supportive environment.
It was amazing because I came in quite late yesterday, like you were near the end of like your deadline day, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like being in a pressure cooker. Like I've been in an environment like that before with like college and stuff, and you do feel like in a way you should be helping someone because you're like, you know, bless her Camille. I was sat there and you had like people, you were sat there like just threading things.
Oh, it's like a little motherhood, isn't it?
Yeah, because you're just trying to make sure that people
you want
will
everyone
do
to
well.
do well.
That we made friends as well.
Yeah, and
It's nice.
it's nice because you just feel like there's an environment. I feel like if you had, in a way, if you had like a glass box effect and you had people like in a zoo in a sort of way, if they were able to see that, then they'd be like, maybe a change of opinion would happen. Do you think that would be okay? I'm not saying that we should throw all this fashion shoots in the zoo.
I think as well, in terms of the industry, now especially with social media and how things are taking off on Instagram, and I feel like smaller businesses are becoming more well known now.
Yeah.
There is more like, it is fading away, that image like of the like stereotypical like nasty bitchy kind of fashion. And I feel like with these small businesses coming out, people are like supporting each other because they need as well, businesses need people to support them for their businesses to happen.
Yeah, they need it to
and I feel like that is just naturally becoming, it is becoming a more supportive
it's becoming
environment.
it's becoming a lot more accessible as well.
Yeah.
You know, we live in a society where we're able to access anything at one point, and I think that's why we made the FTI Collective, because we wanted to make sure that people like us were put out there for people in the industry to actually notice what we do and you know
it's
what
one
we're
of the
capable of doing.
fastest industries in the world, and unfortunately one of the most irreversible kind of damage making. But like I think that's also a sense of how the stigma's disappearing, is because you need to work together to fix the industry in that sense, and like we can't all say that we can do it, but you know what I mean, like being able to work together and power through together, because everyone wants to do well, and it is one of it is, and even with lecturers, they're setting up kind of like platforms for students to talk about mental health and all of that, because there is this pretty face of fashion, but then underneath there's the harsh reality.
Because we do long hours, like the amount of money that we do spend. Like yes, we've chosen to do this course and we're doing it because we want to do it, but at the same time, like give us a break. You know, like
And it's hard when you're feeling like that and other people around you that maybe don't study like such demanding courses cannot relate to you and think, why won't you come just out with me for the weekend or something? You're like, I can't.
Yeah.
You know, they're them added
I think
pressures.
regardless of what you knew, your course is going to be hard on your level because you don't know anyone else's level.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that one course is harder than the other,
No.
but in an environment like we're in, we're constantly working. You walk into the FTI itself and everyone is doing something. No one is sat just patiently humming about, you know, I'm running up and down corridors, like, you know, there is that fast pace of an environment, you know. It's like, I remember when I went to a different uni, I'm not going to name drop them, but like, it was just very quiet. It just felt very, like, there was no sort of, like you said, like a nice environment to be in. It just felt very like, ooh.
I mean, yeah, I definitely noticed that. Like, when I first was deciding which university to go to, I went to 10 different unis and looked around fashion courses there, and Falmouth was definitely the most welcoming and like felt the most community based.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know if that was necessarily because of the unis or maybe because of it being a fashion course, but there definitely was that vibe at other places.
Yeah, because we shared the same open day as well,
Yeah.
and that's crazy to think that was what, nearly
4
years ago. So you think how quickly that's gone. You know, I remember when we like walked in and
waiting in that reception and then just
it's crazy to think how quickly it goes because
Really?
yeah, it goes really, really quickly.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think fashion has, you know, as soon as I walked into the FTI, I thought, okay, this is a good place to study because although it was very different from what it is now, it was still a very nice environment to be in. And it
the
was very,
environment definitely adds to it. Like, it's such an open space and everything.
With like natural light.
In other places, like I went to loads of London unis and it was literally
Same.
like grey buildings and I was
Yeah.
being trapped in a room for sewing.
People didn't have
trapped in a
space to
room-
work.
Yeah.
I mean, there was like literally people eating on the dinner tables, like doing all their plans because there was no tables for them. All of
Like,
that.
I can't imagine us doing that,
No,
like trying to
no.
find a space.
On top of the added stress that we already have with the workload,
it is
fighting
mad.
for desks with each other.
That probably would have ended very well. Probably the bitchiness of fashion students would have come out, you know, the small bit. But how would you say that fashion has like evolved for you guys? Like, where do you think it's gonna go? For you know, like you're all dressed individually. That's because you find yourselves in different. I don't know. You're inspired by different things. Where do you think your style is personally gonna go? Whether it's for your future collections or for yourself as a professional.
I think my style does very much change depending on where I live and who I'm around.
Yeah.
Like, I do have my own style, and wherever I am, like a lot of people say, oh, that's your style. Like, Jodie, I can tell that's your style. However, it does change depending where I'm around. So if I want it more casual, more smart, like just for the environment. So I guess it will depend where life takes me after uni. But I think just keeping it fun, keeping it playful and comfortable, because when you're working long days, you want to be comfy.
Fashion is like 100% like identity based. Like you like consciously make a decision every day when you leave the house what you're wearing. You know, it's not like I had a jeans and t-shirt. Do you know what I mean? Like it's very. The look I have now is very different from how I looked 4 or 5 years ago when starting uni.
Yeah, same.
I've evolved in that sense,
Yeah.
but like at the same time, to think where I could go is crazy to think how far, what I could be wearing.
What about you, Chantelle?
I've evolved, like, again, with the environment. Because I went to a foundation uni in London. I was wearing boots every day. But I can't do that here.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yeah.
The terrain is what
I definitely level it to a certain extent, but I still want to express myself in, like, you know, how I wear my crop tops, how I wear my, like, this and that, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wear boots and I'm just like, I
feel
feel
like this is
really
like,
confident in those days.
Yeah.
Well, like you say, subconsciously you do wake up. Like I wake up in the mornings and I'm like, what am I gonna wear today? Like you know, because it's like you do think do I want to feel like this? Do I want, like, it really does depend on how you feel.
Yeah.
There are some days where I'm like, I'm not going to go and see music, no one's going to see me, so I'm just going to wear like joggers and a long t-shirt and not really care about who sees me.
Saturdays and Sundays,
Evening.
Literally, as soon as they come in, the pajama bottoms are on. You know,
That could be our future.
I probably will be. Just want to put that out there. So, how would you guys? This is going to be might be a difficult but easy question. How would you guys describe each other's styles?
Ooh.
I would
Let's
say.
Start with Chantelle.
Okay. Ooh, we're gonna.
I would say Chantelle's quite contemporary.
Yeah.
She likes layering things.
You
and
definitely
she
get
has.
a style off of your music as well. But
Yeah.
definitely on nights out, I can see your genre
That's
of music
true.
come out. Do you know what I mean?
She has like a classic but casual look, so she can do the casual sweatshirts and things like that, but keeps it like classy in a way, like it doesn't.
It's comfy but tailored.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
That's really the smart casual
And
look.
it's weird because I also do see that those like words describing my collections do like.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
Well,
true.
you do resonate with the clothes that you make. You know,
Yeah.
you do look at the colour palettes and
Yeah.
the different styles that you're making. Oh, that's cool.
I think my collection would be the same. Stab vests.
Literally. Right, so how would you describe Jodie's style?
Quirky.
Oh yeah.
Very
Fun.
fun.
Wild. Colourful.
Colourful.
Colourful is in bold.
Yeah. But also contemporary, like you've got your granddad glasses, but they're like really
Yeah.
like retro kind of.
You do mix things up.
Yeah.
You try to like make things
100%.
look
She
cool.
does say like if she's wearing colour on the day, she's in a good mood. But
Yeah.
when she's not wearing colour, then
It's not good.
not
Not a good day.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like that.
It's
And
always good to tell.
I was like to Chantelle, I was like, if I come head to toe in black with no other colour, that's when you need to worry.
and that hasn't happened yet.
Doesn't
Yeah.
happen often, does it?
I've seen it a few times. It's been stressful days, man.
Yeah.
But even a pop of colour on her shoes, that
You
would
just
still make
know.
a difference.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would be like,
Yeah.
she's okay.
Yeah.
God, she's wearing black as a veil, blimey. I'd be there like, alright, I'm off.
Yeah, literally.
So, how would you describe Chloe's style?
Awful.
Oh.
No.
I've got a mum vibe.
No, you don't.
No.
You don't. You say this, but you don't.
No.
I always think of your bright blue puffer coat. Like, I love that coat.
My identifier.
No, it's not that. It's just I love it.
Your hoop,
Yellow
your
scarf.
stripes.
It was awful, like my 21st. And I turned up and I knew everyone was dressed like me because I had
She
these
hasn't
big
worn the
big
coat
hoops and the hair down and puffer jackets, and I just thought, oh god.
But you do like the trends as well.
I do the trends.
You do. You got the small glasses.
Yeah.
You know the small ones. I love it when I see you in them. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, she's filmed this up today.
Yeah.
That is so true.
I think what I do is I go all black and then I have
And
like
then you
pops
have
of
something.
something.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Oh.
Prince got yesterday.
For self-vanity, how would you describe my style?
You're-
See, this is a hard question. This is a really hard question.
I'd say you're classy.
Can't say.
Yeah.
You mean
Sophisticated.
business
Yeah.
Oh.
when you wear your clothes.
You
Oh.
wear a pop of brands here and there.
Yeah.
Well, not even here and there. I think every day you wear at least one certain brand, and you're like, oh,
It's just, what was the style you were wearing the other day? You had pretty much quite similar. You had the like polo neck. Yeah. Then you had the shirt,
Yeah.
and then you had the watch, and then you had the glasses on. You were like, I'm feeling myself. So there is that. There's a very like, very contemporary. I'd say, I feel like we've used contemporary too much.
But we are all contemporary.
Nowadays.
Nowadays we are.
But yeah, it's very like smart, mean business. Maybe that's from like family, businessmen.
Yeah,
Or like sassy
maybe.
businessmen.
Yeah. No, I it's weird because you do look at, for example, like I look at my parents' styles, like growing up, and I'm like, oh. Like, not in like a, not in a mean way. Not in a mean way, because I love my parents. But like, you know, like, my mum, she has this, she used to have this jacket. There's a photo of me when I was a baby. She has this like big, sort of like I have a tartan shirt,
Yeah.
and she has one very similar, and she was like, oh, I used to wear one like that. I was like, oh god, I'm walking into my mother.
Yeah.
But like, you know, it's weird to see how your style has evolved. How have you guys seen your styles evolve?
Well, leggings. No, I don't know. I think. Ooh,
I think
style-wise.
it's actually strange for me because I'm from Luton, I suppose more streetwear is worn there.
Yeah.
And I was more anti that when I was there. So I wore more like dresses, skirts, boots, heels.
Well, you're trying to
Things
break
like
the
that.
mold.
And then I came here and was like, no one wears streetwear, I want to wear streetwear. And I don't know, it was just like, I think it's kind of evolved in that way, but I guess through experimentation and how I've changed as a person, like your style does develop with that. So
Yeah, I remember one of the first times I met you, and you used to wear in first year a lot of dungarees.
yeah, I used to always wear dungarees.
And you had your pixie haircut.
Yeah.
I was like, gosh, girl.
Wow.
Yeah.
Got to bring back the dungarees now.
Yeah. Bring them
I
back.
think styles have changed, haven't they? You with your really long hair,
Gosh,
Yeah.
dyed pink.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
And I wore my glasses quite a lot at the
Sure,
time.
the
you
glasses.
did. You did. It's massive, like, see how people's styles change. I look back when I was like 14. And I'm like, God,
Yeah,
what was I thinking?
That's
I
another
think
time
everyone
I can't
remembers
look
like
at
the new phase.
Decades ago, literally.
Well, I never got rid of
Yeah,
that.
that's true.
But like, you look at some choices that you made and you think, that's put me in the place that I'm in today?
Oh, I hate when Facebook memories come
Yeah.
up.
Oh gosh.
I like it.
It's
like,
the whole-
I think that was still
Oh,
me.
stop.
Yeah.
Oh, the whole.
I know people will still do that. Yeah, I like it though, because I think that was just me at a certain time in my life. Like, I know it's kind of cringy, but I'm like, it's still me. It's not me like now, because I've evolved and changed,
Yeah.
and I'm glad I have.
But it's
But
still,
I do
it's still a
think-
part.
I still
you know?
look back at that and think that was part of me. Like, I kind of like it. Like, yeah, you still
I-
have
I-
Jessie J tops all the time. It's part of me, you know.
Yeah, it's weird. I used to be known at school as like scarf boy because I used to wear scarves like every day.
Yeah.
Because
How long were the scarves?
it depends really. Because I used to have like 60, 70 scarves, you know, because uniforms were so boring. Like you look at your
Oh, so
school
this is when
uniforms.
you had school uniform.
Yeah, and I used to be like, oh my god. And like I used to get away with the chinos, the black chinos. You know, really risking that one, wasn't I? But yeah, what would you tell your younger selves? Because, you know, have you ever suffered with like any sort of like bullying, just the way that you present yourself?
Yeah, I mean, always. I hate thinking about it, but like, you know, in school, kids are nasty.
Let's put it out there, kids.
kids are
kids
horrible.
are nasty, alright? You're nasty.
Yeah.
You're
I think having
nasty.
like a really athletic sister, like an older sister, so everyone has that picture, and I was always like the chubby kid. I still am, but it's cool because I've, you know.
But honey, you're feeling yourself, you're fab.
I think that's where it was. It was always like dressing, comfort, very dark colours, kind of like not getting too involved kind of thing. And like you do get bullies and shit, like life's life.
Yeah.
But like
Can't move on.
I honestly used to just take the approach that I would feel sorry for them because
Yeah.
they feel the need to like be like that to me.
And
like,
comment about
honey,
things.
I'm sorry that you feel like that about yourself.
Yeah.
Like, no, like I remember.
I know you are, but what
So
am I?
It's so weird, but like obviously down here everyone wears Doc Martens, things like that. So when I was back in college, like where I live at home, I'd wear Doc Martens, and I remember this guy was like to me like, what are those? But like in a nasty way, like, oh my god, them shoes are so ugly, because everyone wears really like branded like sportswear shoes kind of thing like that where I live. And I was just like, I'm so sorry that you could never pull these off. Like, do you know what I mean? Just look at it in like that kind of light and just think like, I'm glad I've got the confidence to wear them. You clearly don't. Like,
Yeah, no, definitely.
just got to think of it like that.
What about you, Chantelle? Or were you like the one that would walk through the corridor like, I don't care?
Loads of people did talk behind my back, but I don't think anyone did like tell me anything about my fashion sense or anything. I did try and like experiment. I think I'll tell myself like to keep doing what I'm doing. Like,
Yeah.
Just keep being.
I think I did grow my confidence by sixth form, and
I
even
think,
just
I think a lot of people do think it.
like even just wearing uniform, but I would change, like I would wear those really platform shoes and different jackets every day.
Yeah.
Even just that like made a difference to how far.
I remember finishing school because, you know, I was a very, I hate the word different, I hate that word, like, oh, you're very different. It's like, no, I'm just not your normal. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, I used to wear scarves and like reams of bracelets, and yeah, in fairness, maybe I did make myself a target, but like as soon as I left school and I went to college and I was in an environment where people respected fashion and stuff like that, you feel like you fit in, and then you see people like who you went to school with, and they do change and adapt to themselves because they're growing up. And I think it's that sense of growing up and becoming a lot more aware of what you're doing in society and what you're capable of doing, you know? Like,
it's like, sorry, I'm not your kind of person. Like, even going to college and shit like that, it's like, I found like my people. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, as soon as I left school, I was happy.
yeah.
So,
You know, I think it's just one of those things though. It's like, like you said, kids can be nasty and they can really stick their words in the mud. And I just, you know, if I was to speak to my younger self, I'd be like, Bubs, just do what you're doing because you're doing it fabulously, and that should be enough. If that's enough for you, then that should be enough for everyone else.
I think obviously sometimes you do experiment and sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, that was a bad experiment.
Oh, there was a
It's
few.
just part of like finding out who you are and growing as a person. So.
I remember there was a stage where I used to wear a denim jacket that had like I wear a t-shirt with like a Union Jack.